Okay, so in this video we're going to have a look at these type of questions that involve ratio, fractions and percentages all in the same question. Now these type of questions are very popular on the exams. They're very common questions that come up on both the higher and foundation paper. So we're going to have a look at how we solve these, how we break it down and how to go about actually answering them. So if you find these videos helpful, don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. But with that being said, let's get started. Okay, so look at our first question then. So this question says that James has 420 chocolates and he only has caramel, orange, coconut and strawberry flavoured chocolates. 2/7 of the chocolates are caramel, 35% of the chocolates are orange, and the ratio of the number of coconut to the number of strawberry is 4:5, and it wants us to work out the number of coconut chocolates that James has. So let's have a look. We've got 2/7 that are caramel. And we've got the next bit of information there that tells us that 35% are orange, and then it goes on to tell us that coconut to strawberry is 4:5. So if we start with the first piece of information here, and that's that 2/7 are caramel. So to break this down, we'll start working out one of those pieces of information. So to work out 2/7 of a number, obviously you need to know how to work out a fraction of an amount here. We're first going to work out 1/7. And to get 1/7, we're going to divide 420 by 7. So obviously if you have a calculator, this sort of question is relatively simple in terms of the calculations, but if you don't, you're just going to have to do a little bit of bus stop method to the side and working out 7 into 420. So 7 goes into 42 6 times, with and then 7 doesn't go into 0 obviously, so we have 60 there. So 1/7 would be 60 chocolates. And obviously always leave your working out to the side. I'm going to get rid of that because we need the space, but obviously always leave your working out. Now we want 2/7, so we'll double that. So 2/7 would be 120. And then we've got our first piece of information. We've got there are 120 caramel chocolates. Now we can move on to the chocolates that are orange. So again, if we get rid of this and we'll just focus on the working out, in fact we'll just leave that there for the moment, we'll go with working out the 35% first. So to get 35%, again, if we'll assume that we don't have a calculator for this, we'll work out 10% and use our non-calculator method. So 10% is going to be 42, and 5%, which is half of that, is going to be 21. So in order to get 35%, we're going to want 3 of the 42s, that takes up to 30%, and then we'll add the 21. So completely up to you how you do that. You can either multiply that by 3 and add 21, or just to the side, again always showing you working out, we could just add 3 of them together and then add the 21 and add that all up. We get 7 and 4, 8, 12, 14, so we get 147. And then let's add that up here next to our information, and that is 147 orange chocolates. Now we've got one last piece of information, and we're going to get rid of all of this and just focus on that for now. So this last piece of information here tells us that the number of coconut to the number of strawberry is in the ratio 4:5. And that is going to be for the remaining chocolates after we get rid of the caramel and the orange. Okay, so we need to actually work out how many are left just for those. So if we add together the 120 and the 147, that adds up to a total of 267. Now we need to take that away from the total, and we know that the total was 420. So 420, and we'll take away 267, and again, without a calculator, we're going to have to do a bit of work here. 7 from 10 is 3. We're going to have to carry again. 6 from 11 is 5, and 2 from 3 is 1. So that leaves us with 153 chocolates that are going to be coconut or strawberry. So we're going to write this as a ratio. So coconut to strawberry, and that is 4:5. I don't always dislike that when there's an S and a 5 next to each other, they look so similar. So we've got 153 that we're going to share in that ratio. So 4 and 5 gives us 9 parts in total, and again this is sharing in a ratio. So again, if you need any reminders on how to share in a ratio, I'll put the link for this video in the description, so you can go have a look at sharing in a ratio if you need to. But let's share this 153. So we've got 153 that we need to divide by 9. And again, if we're not doing this with a calculator, we'll divide that by 9 and see what we get. So 9 goes into 15 once with a remainder of 6, and then 9 goes into 63 7 times. So that leaves us with 17. So for this, 1 part is equal to 17. So with our ratio, in order to turn these into the actual amount of sweets, we need to multiply them both by 17. So again, we can do 4 times 17, and again, you can just multiply that to the side or add them up using column addition, but that is going to be equal 68. And if you do 5 times 17, that's going to equal 85. So there we go, that is all of our amounts there. If we apply that back to the question, underneath coconut there, we've got 68, and underneath strawberry, we have 85. Now the question here did only say work out the number of coconut chocolates that James has, so for our final answer, we would say 68, as that was the amount of coconut that we had after we worked out that ratio. So there we go, there was a lot going on in that question. You had working out a fraction of an amount, a percentage of an amount, finding out what was left, and then sharing that in a ratio. So a lot going on in this question, but I'm going to give you a question very, very similar to this so you can have a go, have a practice for some of these methods. So let's have a look at that now. Okay, so a very similar question for you to practice. So pause the video there, have a go, and we'll go over the answers in a sec. Okay then, so let's have a look at this. So for the fraction of the amount, you've got to work out 2/9 that are lemon. So if we get 2/9 of 360, we know that 1/9 is going to equal 80. Well, 2/9 is going to equal 80, but 1/9 is going to equal 40, and then 2/9 is going to equal 80. But again, showing you're working out how you divided by 9 to get 40, and then labelling the information. So we've got that for in a moment. On to the next part, you've got that 35%. And let's just highlight this, 35% are mint. And to work out that, you're going to get your 10% is 36. You're going to get that your 5% is 18. And then build that up so that you have 3 of the 36s and 1 of the 5%, which is the 18. And 35% in total equals 126. So we have 126 in total that are mint. Again, now you can add those both together, and that gives you 206 in total, and you're going to have to take that away from the total 360 in order to get our amount that can be shared in the ratio. So if we do 360 and we take away 206, you should have got the answer there, 254. Sorry, that's wrong, 154. There we go, 154. Now, on to the next part, you're going to share that in the ratio. So if we have a look, the information that we're given is that strawberry and orange is in the ratio 5:4. So that in total is 11 parts. So you have to divide 154 by 11, and that gives you a total, and if we write that down here, divide by 11, that gives you a total per part of, what is that, 14. There we go. So we get 14 in total. Now we have our last step here, which is to multiply the ratio. So we have strawberry and orange, which is again 5:6. And we want to multiply both of those by 14, which gives us 70 for strawberry. That's not 70. So 70 for strawberry. And for the 6, we'll times that by 14. And that is 84. At this point here, add those two together just to double check. 70 and 84 add together to make the 154. So we should have a correct answer there. So looking back at the question, what did it ask for? It said the number of strawberry sweets that Alice has. Strawberry was the 5 parts, which was the 70. So our final answer for that question was 70. There we go. Right, let's have a look at one more type of question. Okay, so this question here, then we've got a lot of information. It says, on Saturday, some adults and some children were in a cinema. It says the ratio of the number of adults to the number of children was 5:2, and each person had a seat in standard seating or had a seat in the premium seats. 3/4 of the children had a seat in the premium seats, and 117 children had a seat in the standard seats. And there are exactly 2,600 seats in the cinema. Let's just highlight that in a different colour. And it says, on the Saturday, were there people on more than 60% of the seats? So there's a couple of different ways that you could approach this. What we could do is we could straight away work out that 60%, which seems a little bit counterintuitive as it's the last line in the question. But if we work out that 60% straight away, we'll know what kind of number we're aiming for here. So we could work out that 60%. And again, depending on whether you are using a calculator or not will depend on how you approach that. But if we do that without a calculator, because that's relatively simple for us to do, we can just work out this 60% to start with. So 10% would equal 260, and then we times that by 6 to get our 60%. And if we just do that using column multiplication, just to get our answer nice and quick, 6 times 0 is 0, 6 times 6 is 36, and 6 times 2 is 12. So that's 1,560. Now on a question like this, you never know in an exam, that may have just got you a mark. So well worth working that out if that's the nice easy step to go for this question. So let's get rid of that, and obviously always leave your working out again, but we'll get rid of that and we'll just have a look at going back to the start. So it says adults to children was 5 to 2, and then it gives us some information about where they sat. We know that 3/4 of them had seats in the premium seats and 117 children were in the standard seats. Now both of those bits of information are just about the children. So if 3/4 of them were in the premium seats, the other quarter must have been in the standard seats. And it tells us that that was 117 children. So we'll know if this one is 3/4 and this one was 1/4, because it's the rest of the children, and it tells us that that 1/4 is equal to 117. We just want to know what the 3/4 is equal to. And we know if 1/4 is 117, in order to get 3/4, we just have to multiply that by 3. So if we multiply that by 3, that is going to tell us the amount of children that were in the premium seats. So 117 times 3, and again you've just got to do some working out. Again, you can either multiply it by 3, or you could just add that together 3 times, whichever you prefer. I'm going to use a combination of methods here. So that adds up to 21, that adds up to 5, and that adds up to 3. So that is 351. So we know that there are 351 children that are in the premium seats. Let's get rid of that working out because we now have quite a lot of information. We know that the first thing we worked out was trying to see if they filled 1,560 seats. And now in this second bit of information, we've actually worked out the total number of children. We have 351 that are in the premium seats and 117 that are in the standard seats. So if we add those both together, we have 8, 6 and 4, so 468 children. Now we obviously just want to work out how many adults there are. So we know that there are 468 children, but how are we going to get to the adults? So it tells us the ratio of adults to children at the start, just over here, and it tells us that the ratio of adults to children is 5 to 2. And we've already worked out that the children in that ratio is 468. So we're using a different part of our ratio here. We're not just sharing in a ratio, we're actually working backwards because we've already been given one of the numbers. So in order to get back to one part, we could divide that by 2. And that would allow us to then figure out the other way around what we would have to have multiplied by, and essentially to get our number down here to figure out the amount of adults. So if I want to work that out to the side, I can do 468 divided by 2, which tells me what one part would be worth, and that answer comes out as 234. So we must have multiplied by 234 per part in order to share that ratio out. So times 234. So that means in order to get the total amount of adults, we're going to have to times by 234. Again, if this is non-calculator, you're going to have to do some working out there. Or you could just apply a little bit of a trick for timesing by 5, which is to times by 10 and halve it. Although you might argue it's probably just quicker to do 234 times 5 to the side and just get that correct. So 5 times 4 is 20, 3 times 5 is 15, add the 2 is 17, and then 2 times 5 is 10, plus the 1 is 11. So in terms of working this out, and we're going to need a bit more space there, so let's get rid of that arrow, we've got 1,170 adults. And to get there, we times by 234. Okay, so we've got quite a bit of information now. We've got 1,170 adults and we've got 468 children. And it said, is 60% of the seats filled? And we already worked out that in order to fill that, we needed to fill 1,560 seats. So now we have all this information, and let's get all of this out of the way. We can actually finish this question off because we can actually just add these two together, and that's going to give us the total amount of people at the cinema. So to finish this off, we'd do 1,170, the total amount of adults, add 468, the total amount of children. That adds up to 1,638, which is greater than 1,560. So where it says were there people on more than 60% of the seats, we would say yes, and you could either then write a sentence to say 1,638 is more than 1,560, or you could just say it as an inequality, 1,638 is greater than 1,560. And there we go. And don't forget to write your conclusion here, as it does say that. And don't forget the question does say you must show how you get your answer. So all of that working out is essential. Now there's a lot of information in that question. We've gone through quite a lot there, reversing the kind of fractions, reversing the ratio, but I do have a question for this for you to practice. So if you need to, go back, listen to that again, or if not and you think you can have a go, let's have a look at a question for you. Okay, so here is your last question, very similar to the one we just had a go at, so read this carefully, highlight any of the key information, and pause the video and we'll go over the answer in a sec. Okay, so let's have a look. Now I've got some quite large numbers in this question, but it says that the ratio of adults to children at a sports event was 5:4. It says that 2/5 of the adults were in the upper stand, 1,260 adults were in the lower stand, and there were 4,000 seats at the event, and it says were there more than 90% of those filled. So again, the first thing that I would work out here is 90% of 4,000. And if you work out 10%, it comes out as 400, and you can actually just take that away from the 4,000, which gives you 3,600 seats that we're looking to see if they're filled. Or you could just do the 400 and times it by 9, which again gives you the 3,600. Moving on then. Now it says that 2/5 of the adults had seats in the upper stand. So if that is 2/5, then the amount of adults in the lower stand must have been 3/5. And we know that 3/5 is equal to 1,260. Now this is actually the one step in here which is a little bit harder than the last one, because to get 3/5 to 2/5, that's a little bit more complicated. And in order to get that down to 1/5, you would have to divide that by 3, as that is currently 3/5. And if we divide that by 3, that would give us that 1/5 is going to be equal to 420. And again, just writing the working out down there, we divided that by 3. Remember, 3/5 divided by 3 would give us 1/5. We can then multiply that by 2, and that would give us the amount for 2/5. And if we multiply 420 by 2, you get 840. So that is the difficult part of the working out and how this was different to the last question. The rest of this is relatively similar. We're going to now find out how many children there are, and we're going to reshare that into the ratio. So if we get rid of a little bit of that working out there, let's just get rid of that. And what we're going to have a look at now is getting the total of the adults. So to get the total of the adults, we'd add these two together, and that gives you 2,100 adults. Now we can have a look at applying that to the ratio. In the question, we're told that the ratio of adults to children is 5:4. And we now know that there are 2,100 adults that are in respect to that number 5. And we just have to figure out what you multiply by in order to get down to the 2,100. And we'll do that. It's the same for the children. So to work that out, we need to do the 2,100 divided by 5. Again, I will do this working out rather than rushing this last bit, but dividing that by 5 goes in 4 times, carry the 1, 2, 0. So it's times 420. So interesting that that came out as 420, because there was a 420 earlier on in the question, but not necessarily related to one another here. So there we go, timesing each of these by 420. So 4 times 420, and again you can just work that out to the side. Well done if you're sitting at this point thinking you've already got this. 4 times 0 is 0, 4 times 2 is 8, and 4 times 4 is 16. So we have 1,680 children. Okay, so on to the last step then. We now know how many adults there were, 2,100, how many children there were, 1,680. In order to get the total, we just have to add those two together and compare it to that 90%. So 2,100 And again, don't forget it says you must show how you got your answer. So even if you can see if that's under or over, you still need to make sure you write this down. So 0.873, so 3,780, and that is more than the 3,600. So again, finishing this off with a conclusion. So to finish this off, this question, we would say yes, because 3,780 is greater than 3,600, and that would be our final answer to finish off this question. And there we go, there's our final answer, and that is the end of some of these questions. So again, I hope you found this useful, hope you found it helpful. Do check out any of the links for videos that I think might be helpful in the description. If you did find that useful, please like the video, please leave me a comment, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one.